Key points to remember when the home stretch here. These things will save your life. These points are years and years and years and years of trial and error, all summed up into simple points. Number one, perfection is the enemy of good enough. What I mean by this is, so many of the questions I get are about very, very technical things. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? Just do. Just start. Read the material, read your resource guide, and start. And then you will learn by trial and error. You will successfully learn how things don't work, and you'll then get better. Do not try to be perfect, because it will ultimately be your demise. Take it step by step and incorporate it at the speed that works for you. If you have health goals that are needed, you need change in your health now, then you best find a way to get focused quickly and do a lot of these things now. You want to deliberately set up a plan, and you want to start acting on it. And everyone in the house, you need to get involved. Obviously, more hands make light work. If your goals aren't as urgent, then you can take more time. But you will get out of this what you put in. Just do not try to be perfect. Effort is good. Perfection, don't try it. Number two, simplicity is always best. Do not pull out a recipe this long for dinner. It will drive you crazy, and it will make you think that working with Whole Foods at dinner time is difficult, and it will cause you to find other ways to get dinner in. Does that make sense? Whole food dinners are simple. Throw some chicken in the oven on medium heat with a little olive oil, salt, and pepper. Get some vegetables, cut up a salad, and there is your dinner. It doesn't have to be anything too terribly complex. All right, that's one example. We've got tons of simple dinner recipes in the food guide as well. Remember your meal planning section? Every one of those sections has a chunk of recipes right in there. Go to those recipes. They're designed to be simple. And every time you work with it, it'll get easier because you'll remember it. Once you do it, it'll get easier. You'll shave a minute or two off your prep time. Okay? But keep it simple. Don't try to get too complex. Have the right tools to make your whole food lifestyle easier and more efficient. I can promise you, investing into the tools in your kitchen will change your life. Having sharp knives will change your life. Trying to prep whole food with dull knives is it's like literally stabbing your eyes out with spoons. It's terrible. Not that I've ever done that, but I can imagine how terrible that would be. It's so annoying to try to cut with dull knives. And the more frustrated you get in the kitchen, the more you will think the kitchen is causing you frustration, opposed to the fact that you should have thrown those knives out 10 years ago. Get some good knives. Get a food processor that can process your potato or your carrot in seconds instead of trying to peel it and cut it yourself. Now, those of you who have time and who have knife skills, you might actually want to just do it with a knife, and that's fine. Get a good knife. You'll be happy you did. These tools will absolutely change the game for you. As I've said before, I want to make sure this is clear. Any investment in your kitchen will translate to better health in both the short term for the goals you want right now, as well as the long term. We have never thought about purchasing a Vitamix and having that be an investment into our goal of reducing our meds. It is a direct investment in the reduction of your meds, I can promise you. And the reason I can tell you that is not just because in my household has our health gotten better since we got it, but I have seen countless other families make the same investment and see the same results. less sickness, more energy, because they've got a tool that can take raw foods and process it real quick. And you don't lose the nutrients, you got all the flavor there, and boom, you got a food ready. It makes a big difference. Number 5, be conscious of your next move. Too often we get so caught up in what's going on with our day, what's the next appointment, all this stuff that we have filled our lives with. And we forget to think about what our next move is for our body. How many people think if your body isn't working that you have any appointments to go to? You've had that happen before, haven't you? The body decides to stop working and it doesn't matter what was on your schedule that day. You're done. You are on your back, you are at home, you are out of commission. All you have to do is think ahead and start to plan. And this will be a process for some of you because some of you just have not worked with and prepped food long. But start working at it and you'll get way, way better at it. But you have to be thinking of your next move. If it's morning, you need to be thinking about what you're going to have for dinner that night. Who knows why? Because you got to set out your protein that morning so it's thawed out. So you don't have to use the microwave to thaw it out when you get home. You've got your thawed out chicken right there and you can pop it in the oven after you preheat it and it's done in 15 minutes. Done deal. Easy as can be. So always be thinking of your next move. If your health is important to you, then your next move for dinner or your next move for lunch should be as well, right? Because what we eat affects our health. So if you think ahead, you will be a healthier person. This rides right on the coattails of number 2, keeping it simple, is cook simple. Do not get wildly complex with your cooking. If you want to have a dinner party and you want to wow some people with the newfound skills that you have because you've been working on Whole Foods more at your home, that's perfectly fine. Build a whole night around it and make the most complex recipes that you ever saw in your entire life. I actually challenge you to do it because you'll learn so much about food when you use some of these complex recipes, and you'll actually be able to translate some of those things down into your normal meal planning. But cook simple. It will help so much. Prepare food ahead of time. This piggybacks on the leftovers thing too. Make sure you prepare your food ahead, because if you have food prepared ahead of time, you're not caught with nothing in your hands and you're hungry. How many people know what happens when you're hungry and there's nothing in your hands? You immediately open up the cupboard and you're just searching for the first thing that looks good. And usually that's something that you wish wasn't in the cupboard. But most of you threw a lot of that away in the last couple of weeks, so there's no longer anything in the cupboard, unless you replaced it with good food now. If you prepare food ahead of time, you will not get caught off guard. And cooking more when you have the opportunity. So when we do dinner, we always cook enough dinner so that we have lunch the next day. And it may not be the same lunch, but we'll at least have enough chicken left over so that we can make a quick salad before we run out the door. So we've got our chicken salad made up and we've got our lunch all ready to go. And in the morning before we ran out, we set the hamburger out for dinner and we're done. Our food is taken care of for the next 24 hours after we cook our dinner at night. Done deal. You'll start to see, again, as you start working on this stuff, it will become a lot more second nature. I wanted to give you a few statistics that may surprise you, but they directly correlate with what we've talked about today. Because one of the biggest challenges that families have right now is time. And right on top of that, if not right alongside of it, is money. And I was, in prepping for this lesson, I was just going through some of my childhood health research. Because every day, we're getting new articles on what our children are going through right now and how their health is changing. Has anyone heard the health statistic of our children may not live as long as we will? We actually have the first generation of adolescents that are projected to have a much lower life expectancy than their parents. And they're projecting this based on the children's health right now. So some of the statistics. In the past 3 decades, childhood obesity has increased by 300%. 300. I was an obese child. I can tell you by experience it wasn't fun. 300% more obese children today than we had 3 decades ago. Does anyone think this has anything to do with whole food preparation and time? And the type of food our kids are eating? Maybe. Between 1996 and 2009, ADD and ADHD drug prescription in children from 15 to 17 has increased 10,000 times. 10,000. That is a significant effect on the lives that our children will live when they grow up. Not only that, that number translates into 9% of kids, 5 to 17, right now, 9% are diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. That is about 5 million. Is that acceptable to this group? Are we okay with that? Does that sit right with anybody? While we are in charge, this is going on. The U.S. constitutes 4% of the world's population. Yet we consume 88% of the legally prescribed amphetamines. Ritalin is one of those. These are the ADHD and ADD medications that our teachers are telling us our kids need to be taking now. I remember a little bit what I was like as a kid. My teacher, had she not realized what little boys are like, would have been begging my parents to put me on it too. Because I was a little boy who normally was running around on a farm all day, and when you coop me up in a classroom with a bunch of other kids who are wild and crazy too, kind of natural that things can get out of control at times. Is it okay with you that we consume 88% of the world's supply of amphetamines? This is under our watch. We are in charge. Our kids don't run the show. Our children's health is a direct reflection of what we do as parents and what we're willing to do now. I'd like to follow all of that up with letting you know that I have worked with countless numbers of families who began to take the tips and tools taught in this lesson, and they began to make steps, and they made mistakes, and they successfully found lots of ways not to cook certain foods. But they invested the time and the effort it took into basing their home on whole foods. And their children's lives changed forever. The time and commitment that you put in, that you invest into whole foods, into preparation, for you, for your children, will be one of the best investments you've ever made. And we can no longer sit around and accept the condition of health in our childhood, in our children's population right now. We can't. It is unacceptable. And the number one most powerful thing that you can do is go home and start working on this. And if you need to get rid of some of the things out of your schedule to do this, do you think it's worth it? It may be difficult, but I can promise you it will be worth it.